Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Get Your Popcorn podcast. My name is Holly Holiday. I'm your creator and host of the show. For regular listeners, if you notice, I am about 50 shades darker today. I competed in a bodybuilding show this weekend. I do bikini, and I have 19,000 layers of spray tan on. So I did a little on my face, but I'll show you how gross it looks. Look at that. That's my normal color there. Yeah. So I've done my best to button it up. If you think it looks bad on camera, you should see it in person. I am a carrot color, like full carrot. Yeah, I look as though I belong at the Playboy Mansion in about 2006. Other than the dark hair, obviously. You would never stand for such things. So, Gone with the Wind, let's continue on this series. If you haven't, go back and listen to the making of the film, because I'm not going to get too much into production notes here, because I did a whole very special episode on that. I also have another series on Gone with the Wind that I did over a year ago, so you're welcome to go back and look at that. Obviously, disclaimer for Gone with the Wind, like, this is a historically inaccurate film. It's written with Southern idealism, Confederate propaganda, historical rewriting. It perpetuates harmful stereotypes about Black people, as well as harmful myths about the Confederacy. It's racist. It portrays the Ku Klux Klan in a positive light. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So it is a complicated film to talk about because this is all true. All of those things are true. And what's also true is this is the highest grossing film of all time adjusted to inflation, like $4.9 billion in today's money. And let's not forget, this is before a wide release existed. Wide releases don't come into effect until Jaws in 1975. So this still is the highest grossing film without ever having had a wide release. So that is crazy. That's crazy numbers. As well as this is such a technical advancement in terms of filmmaking from where they were before in film. So we kind of have to balance these two truths while we are talking about the film. This is a historically inaccurate, racist, harmful film that has a lot of technically brilliant filmmaking things within it. So we have to kind of hold these two things to be true, and we can't discuss one without the other. So Gone with the Wind is complex to talk about. If I fuck up at all or I'm not getting it right, obviously I'm open to feedback. I'm always committed to growing and learning. But I think it's very important that we talk about films like this because this is the part of oppression and systemic racism that people talk about. It's present in our media, and our media has perpetuated this. I grew up in what I consider to be like a very left-wing family. I still watched this. I still had ideas about like what the South was like because of this movie that I had to then unlearn, such as, there were good slave owners. No, not a thing. But that's what this film wants you to believe, that there were some people that loved their slaves and they were good slave owners. You cannot own a person. You cannot enslave people and be a good person. Those things cannot be true at the same time. You can have slaves or be a good person. We cannot do both. So stuff like that where like even without kind of realizing it at the time, you're like, it helps your brain form these ideas that are not true. So it's important to continue to watch these films and talk about what is present in it, what propaganda is woven throughout it, so that we can identify it, pick it out, and make sure that we learn from our mistakes, as well as teach it, future generations to be like, look, like this is what you need to be looking for in media when you watch it. This is how you become a critical film watcher. This is how you become more aware when you're looking at things. And you can see, it's our history written in front of us, even though it's historical rewriting. Between the lines, this is still our history of systemic racism and oppression for Black people in America. So that's what I'm just going to say off the top. I deep dive it a lot more in some of the previous episodes. If you feel like I haven't gone into it, trust me, I have, just not all in this one. So we're going to start off with a doozy about when we're talking about Confederate propaganda, because this is the opening title card to the film. Here was a land of cavaliers and cotton fields called the Old South. Here in this pretty world, gallantry took its last bow. Here was the last ever to be seen of knights and their fair ladies, masters and slaves. Look for it only in books, for it is no more than a dream remembered. Yikes. Big yikes. So our opening scene, we have Scarlett sitting on the porch with the Charlton twins. These are her neighbors. Scarlett, she's like the belle of the county. So like in terms, like she's like the hottest chick on the block. Like all the boys love her. All the girls hate her because all the boys love her. She's one of those. She's giving a little bit of pick-me energy, a lot of pick-me, not a girl's girl. Scarlett is deeply unconcerned. She wants to be hotter than everybody. and she is trying to catch a husband, but not just any husband. Deeply in love with the boy next door. His name is Ashley. Ashley, they are very different. Ashley is this like very aristocratic family. His from like a family that's really into art and poetry and literature. They vacation in New York. They're very worldly. Scarlett comes from, she's very headstrong, doesn't spend a lot of time in her head, not overly thinky, kind of a visceral person, very strong-willed. And this comes from particularly her father, who's Irish, which you will catch a lot more of in the book than you do in the movie. Her Irish history comes up a lot in the book, but a lot more in the book than it does in the movie. The movie, they kind of like skirt around it a little bit. But her father is from Ireland, and he is very bold, very brash, hard drinker. And Gone with the Wind is kind of a good example. I think it's interesting when you pair it with lines of thoughts like Sinners, when we talk about the Irish, and my family's from Ireland, and the ability that Irish people had to go from the systemic oppression that they received in Ireland from the English to then move to the Americas, Canada, where my family moved, or in America here. And because they were able to assimilate via skin color here with money, they then turned and began to oppress people in order to fit in with the white ruling class, which is very, very interesting. But of course, they never quite fit in, because if you look at things like further down the line, we'll discuss with the Ku Klux Klan and their hatred of the Catholics, and how much, again, in Scarlett's book, they sort of they hide that she's Catholic a little bit. Like, it's a little bit of like a dirty secret. Like, they know she's Irish, and the families in the county look down on her family for being Irish, despite the fact that, you know, they have the same level of money that the other families have. Like, they're never not Irish to the, you know, aristocratic Southern community. So it's kind of interesting. It goes a lot more in the book. Obviously, like, it's a complex issue to talk about, but it's something that when I watched Sinners, this odd position of the Irish within the South in their relation to both white ruling class and the Black people was fascinating. So there's a lot of that in the book. So the book it's a tough read, guys. It's so fucking racist. Like, if you think this movie's racist, oh my God, you don't even know. The book is crazy. Like, crazy. The descriptions of the Black people are horrendous, and the use of the N-word, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so Scarlett's Irish in summary. Well, so she's headstrong. She's in love with this boy who is like, they have nothing in common, and he does not love her, but she doesn't care. Every other man in the county is like falling down in love with her, and she's like, yeah, I like the one boy that's not interested in me. So the Charlton twins are discussing with her the upcoming barbecue with the Wilkes, Ashley's family, and they have a little bit of gossip that he is going to marry a girl named Melanie. Now, because it's the South, Melanie's his cousin. I've heard that they did this, like, we know that happens within royal families and stuff too during this time period. I'm from Canada, so there's a lot of jokes about you guys from the South that you like to marry your cousins. This book is not doing a lot to dispel that little rumor that goes on about the South. Anyway, so Scarlett, obviously devastated, she kind of runs away from them. This is where we first see the appearance of Mammy, who's played by Hattie McDaniel, who is the only person in the film with any goddamn sense. Mammy, forever voice of reason in the film, the only smart person that, other than, we got Mammy and Rhett. Rhett is the only other person who sees through Scarlett's bullshit. So Mammy is like kind of yelling at her about the rules and not to run away in the sun without a whatever shawl and all the shit. So she goes to meet her father because she knows he's coming back from the Wilkses. So when he gets back, she's kind of asking some leading questions, and he sort of figures out that she's in love with Ashley, and he is not pleased about it because Ashley doesn't think like her, and he tries to tell her you wouldn't be happy with him because you guys are so different, and she doesn't believe it. And he kind of tells her that, like, if you're Irish, the thing that you really love is Tara, like your land. And his quote is, "Do you mean to tell me, Katie Scarlett O'Hara, that land doesn't mean anything to you? Why, land's the only thing that in the world that's worth working for, worth fighting for, worth dying for, because it's the only thing that lasts." Scarlett says, "Oh, Pa, you talk like an Irishman." And Gerald says, "It's proud that I am Irish, and don't you be forgetting, Missy, that you're half Irish too, and with anybody with a drop of Irish blood in them, why, the land they live on is like their mother. But there now, you're only just a child. It'll come to you, this love of the land. There's no getting away from it if you're Irish." And this is sort of the central theme of the book that Scarlett slowly realizes over the course of this 4-hour film, is her attachment to Tara and what it represents to her, this like sense of home. Now, I'm not really sure if this is true for all Irish people. Maybe I'm just one too many generations removed. I'm 75%. Not really that attached to any one location, I don't think. More attached to like nothing really. Maybe I'm dead inside. I don't know. But anyway, this is the lesson Scarlett learns throughout the book is that truly there is no land, nothing that you will love quite like the land you live on, and no man is worth it. So they both go back. Scarlett's mother gets home, and they're trying to, we meet Scarlett's sisters. We've got Sue Ellen and Corrine. Sue Ellen is Scarlett's sister, one younger from her. She's a real bitch and a real stick in the mud the whole fucking movie. She's so annoying. She's so annoying. Like, I get Scarlett would be like an impossible sister to grow up. Like, growing up with a sister that's hotter than you, like, I can tell from experience, like, that shit's rough. Like, being the ugly sister fucking sucks. But that's why you become funny. So, Sue Ellen, no excuses here. You don't need to be such a bitch. Just get funny and then get plastic surgery later. But I guess it's a little early for plastic surgery. But funny. Go with funny. Go with funny. So they're trying to negotiate for the barbecue. Green's only 13. She can't go. She can go to the barbecue, but she can't go to the dance. Ellen is the name of the mother. She notices that Scarlett is very sad. And she sort of lets her borrow her earrings to try and cheer her up. Scarlett loves her mother more than anything, wants to be like her mother. Her mother is the antithesis of Scarlett. Like, she is very proper, very poised, very collected, very sure of herself, very serious, very kind, follows every rule in the book. Scarlett, none of those qualities, but she admires her mother very greatly. So later, during their prayer before bedtime, Scarlett decides that she's just going to tell Ashley that she loves him. And then, of course, when she tells him she loves him, he will break off his engagement to Melanie and they'll run away together. Because, like, I mean, given Scarlett's track record, every man she's ever met falls in love with her. So why wouldn't Ashley? Like, I do feel like that's kind of a fair assumption. Although, girl, he's already engaged, so, like, that's pretty shitty. But Melanie's also kind of annoying. So Melanie's one of those people where, like, maybe I'm a bad person, but, like, if you met them in real life, they're one of those people where you're like, there's no way you're this nice. She's one of those where you're like, I don't trust you. No one is this nice. You know, maybe I'm a bad person. Am I a bad person? Anyway, I don't want to dig into that right now. So the next day, they're getting ready for the barbecue, and Scarlett and Mammy are at each other's fucking throats. Mammy wants Scarlett to eat before she goes to the barbecue so that she doesn't make a fool of herself and eat in public, because God forbid a woman eat in front of a man. We're still unpacking this bullshit today in 2026. This, like, don't eat too much in front of a man shit. No, girls, order the full burger and eat the fries and eat some of his too. But yeah, so Scarlett is like, fuck that. I've heard Ashley say that he likes to see a girl with a healthy appetite. Then Mammy, Hattie McDaniel, is so funny. She's a comedic actress to begin with. But she says, I don't see Ashley Wilkes asking you to marry him. And then she makes this face, and it is so funny. Scarlett throws her umbrella and then shovels food in, and then they go. Now, Scarlett, before she hatches her full plan, decides that she is going to make Ashley as jealous as possible. This girl, diabolical. You do have to respect the hustle. I do. So she's like, I'm just going to flirt with every single man here. Any man that's, over 16 and under 60, I'm going to say some to. So she meets, first we meet Charles Hamilton. So this is Melanie's brother. He's like so shy and so cute and like given strong virgin energy. And he just is like in love with her, like golden retriever. And she's like, okay, cool. But she flirts with him. Even though he is engaged to another girl. Then she flirts with Frank Kennedy, who's not engaged to, but is like, I don't know how it worked then, writing letters to whatever dating was in the 1800s to Frank Kennedy. And then we meet Melanie, who is sickly sweet and very nice to Scarlett. And Scarlett, in return, is being like disgustingly nice, but we know it's fake. But then they're walking about and they see a man at the end of the stairs. And Scarlett is like, who's that guy? Because he's looking at me like he knows what I look like without any clothes on. And we find out it is Rhett Butler. And Rhett Butler is not received. So essentially that means he's been like excommunicated from his community in Savannah, which is where he's from. And it's because he took a girl out, and we find this out in the book. He took a girl out all night. So we know what that means. And then didn't marry her afterwards. How scandalous. God, these people would die in 2026. So he's like not received. He's like what they call a scallywag. He's like, yeah, he's just like a rough and tumble guy. And so, but the Wilkses are like very welcoming to kind of everybody. And Rhett is very useful because he spent lots of time up north. And obviously this is on the precipice of the Civil War. So at this time, the women go upstairs to take a nap and the men talk about the war. Not that I want to like get into too much gender politics because obviously like I'm a raging feminist. However, I do think it doesn't have to be gendered, but can we bring back mid-party naps? Like how great does that sound? You eat lunch at your friends' houses, then everybody takes a fucking nap, and then you get up later for like dancing and shit. That sounds great. Can we bring back in Western culture the mid-party nap? Anyway, Scarlett goes up there, and downstairs we hear this exchange, and I'm just going to read it out. I know I'm not the greatest at line reading, guys, but we're going to have to bear with me. So Ashley says, well, gentlemen, if Georgia fights, I go with her. But like my father, I hope the Yankees leave us in peace. And someone says, but Ashley, they've insulted us. Charles Hamilton says, you can't mean you don't want war. Ashley says, most of the miseries in the world were caused by wars, and when the wars were over, no one ever knew what they were about. And Rhett Butler says, I think it's hard winning a war with words, gentlemen. Charles says, what do you mean, sir? Rhett, I mean, Mr. Hamilton, there's not a cannon factory in the whole South. Someone says, what a difference does that make, sir, to a gentleman? Rhett says, I'm afraid it's going to make a great deal of difference to a great many gentlemen, sir. Charles says, are you hinting, Mr. Butler, that the Yankees can lick us? Rhett says, no, I'm not hinting. I'm saying very plainly that the Yankees are better equipped than we. They've got factories, shipyards, coal mines, and a fleet to bottle up our harbors and starve us to death. And all we've got is cotton, slaves, and arrogance. Charles says, I refuse to listen to any renegade talk. Rhett, well, I'm sorry if the truth offends you. Charles, apologies aren't enough. I hear you're turned out at West Point, Mr. Butler, and that you aren't received by any decent family in Charleston, not even your own. And Rhett says, I apologize again for all of my shortcomings, Mr. Wilkes. Perhaps you don't mind if I walk and look over your place. I seem to be spoiling everybody's brandy and cigars and dreams of victory. And he leaves. And then this time Scarlett's gotten down the stairs. She's overheard this conversation, and she sees Ashley leaving to find Rhett. And she's like, it's now or never, baby. And so she kind of pulls him into the library and confesses her love for him. And he rejects her, kind of, in a weird way. Ashley does this thing where he like tells her he loves her, but then he like is like, I'm still gonna be with Melanie. Diabolical, sir. And he does it. He like torments the shit out of her the whole movie by like giving her these little like breadcrumbs every so often. Because I think deep down he does kind of like love her spirit or whatever, and like she's like super hot. However, like he's a coward. It's not quite giving fuckboy energy, but it's giving like sad boy energy. I don't know what to say. Where like Ashley's just like a little weakling, but she yearns for him, so here we are. Anyway, so she's very upset with him. He kind of gives a similar reason to her father. He's like, look, girl, like we're so different. And she gets pretty mad, and she does something that I think would be kind of fun, and she just like slaps him in the face. And like we can't get away with that anymore, guys. But like, damn, it looks good. Like if a man broke your heart, just full up, just like an old movie slapped to the face. Not that I would ever do that to anybody, but some men, never mind. And so he walks out, and she's pretty angry at him, so she picks up this vase and throws it against the wall. And Mr. Butler, Red, pops up on the couch, and he says, has the war started? And Scarlett is immediately pissed because she's like, why the fuck didn't you like make your presence known in here? I just like said my feelings about another person. And she says, sir, you should have made your presence known. Rat says, in the middle of that beautiful love scene, now that wouldn't have been very tactful, would it? And Scarlett says, you, sir, are no gentleman. And Rat says, you, miss, are no lady. And don't think I hold that against you. Ladies have never had any appeal for me. And Scarlett kind of storms off. The war is then called. Scarlett rushes to try to find Ashley, and she sees Ashley kissing Melanie, and she's like, fuck this. And she goes and Charles finds her, he proposes her, and she says yes out of spite. I mean, a move I kind of respect. But guys, the more we watch movies together here, and this is my parasocial relationship with you guys that are listening, the more I think maybe therapy should be something I should go back to. Because like, I saw that, and I was like, that's a badass move. Not Scarlett needs help. So I don't know what that says about me, but I'm not prepared to explore that right now. So they get married. The day after Ashley and Melanie get married, Scarlett cries during the entire thing, and Charles seems to think that's because he's going to leave, and it's actually because she's sad that she's not marrying Ashley. So there's that. Then we jump forward in time a little bit, and Charles dies, and Scarlett is in mourning, and she fucking hates it because she doesn't want to wear boring black clothes. She's 16 too, like let's remember this here. I mean, she is awful. But also she's 16, so there's something particularly awful about being 16. And so she's crying. Her mother feels bad for her and says, okay, well, you can go live with or go stay with Melanie and her Aunt Pitty Pat, because that's Charles's sister and aunt. And Mammy goes with her, but Mammy sees through the bullshit. She's like, you're going to be waiting for Ashley when he gets back. That's the only reason that you're there. And then once she gets there, they start to volunteer for the hospital, much against Scarlett's will. She hates it. Then we get to the scene. Atlanta throws this big kind of fundraising bazaar. There's a big dance. It's all for the cause. So for the Confederacy, it's a big deal that Scarlett's out because she's supposed to be in mourning, but the community's kind of given her like permission because she's just working for the cause. When they get there, they see that Rhett Butler is there. He's kind of a big deal because he is doing something called blockade running. So Rhett is sneaking past Yankee ships in order to get goods from England into the South. We learn in the book that he's friends with the Yankees and he often pays them off just to get them through, but he's then seen as a hero, so he sort of restored his image semi within the community because they need something from him. And then there's an announcement that there's going to be a auction for the women, that if men want to lead the Virginia Reel, which is a dance, that they need to bid for their date. Opening bids are like $20, $25. Rhett bids $150 in gold, which of course is more valuable because that is something that they can use kind of worldwide for trade. Confederate dollars, of course, only valuable within the Confederacy, which is, of course, burning to the ground. So that's $3,500 in today's money. And it is scandalous. The leader of the bazaar, Dr. Mead, is like, Scarlett, there's no way Scarlett will ever do this. So she's in mourning, and Scarlett's like, oh, yes, I will. And so she's thrilled because she gets to dance and dance and dance all night. Following this, they kind of strike up a little bit of a friendship, and Rhett brings her presents pretty regularly. And Rhett kind of makes his feelings known for her, and Scarlett's like kind of just continues to brush him off. And they have sort of this like a bit of a will they won't they energy because Scarlett is just kind of rude to him all the time, but he seems to like that. But they're very similar, very, very similar, and that becomes like pretty clear pretty quickly. Ashley then comes home. Melanie and Scarlett have both made him gifts, and on his last day, in the morning, Scarlett wants to show him off to the train station. Melanie's too depressed to get out of bed. And then they have a kiss before he goes, and then he leaves. Then there's the Battle of Gettysburg, which we don't see, but we then see a shot of the announcement and all the people in the town square kind of getting the list of the men that are killed in action. There's a bunch of them from their neighbors. The Charlton twins are dead. Dr. Mead, who I mentioned before, his oldest son is dead. Most of the men that Scarlett knows have died. We then start to see a little more of the hospital. We discover Melanie is going to have a baby. And then we meet Belle Watling. And Belle Watling is the town sex worker. They don't say this, really. She's kind of just known as like a bad woman, and she has dyed hair because, God forbid, if you dye your hair, you're a hoe for sure. My hair is naturally blonde. And so they're up in arms. And Scarlett is even more horrified to learn that Rhett Butler spent a lot of time with Miss Belle Watling. And in the book, it isn't explored in the movie that much, but in the book, it's pretty clear that Belle and Rhett have a son that lives away in a boarding school. But that's not really explored in the book. Oh, and in the book, Scarlett has a son with Charles, named Wade, which again is not in the movie. And she's horrible. She's a horrible mother. She kind of hates her son, and he gravitates mostly towards Melanie. And then as we learn about Melanie's pregnancy, there's also another enslaved woman named Prissy, and Prissy is a horribly written character. Oh my God. Just somebody who's written to be extremely unintelligent and conniving and just awful. And it's so racist and hard to watch. So she promises the doctor that she knows how to deliver babies and will be fine. The war starts to get closer to Atlanta as Sherman marches to the sea. We start to see some of the really horrible things of the hospital. They've run out of morphine. They've run out of antiseptic. They have to do a amputation of a gangrenous leg, which is not shown on screen, obviously, because it's 39, but Vivien Leigh's reaction to this as Scarlett is just like, you can tell, like, it's just horrible. And the screaming it does make you feel sick, like the atmosphere of it. You can almost like smell the gangrene, and it feels hot just watching it. Like, the production design on this is incredible. People start to flee, including Pity Pat and some wounded soldiers. And this is when Melanie goes into labor. And Prissy reveals she actually has no idea how to deliver a baby. And the doctor can't come, so it's on Scarlett's shoulders. Atlanta is then set on fire by the Confederacy in order to make sure that the Yankees don't get whatever remaining supplies are in the city. Prissy has to go and get Rhett because they need help. Scarlett has decided they're going to go back to Tara, which is the plantation that she's from. I don't know if I said that off the top. Rhett comes, he steals a horse, and they escape from Atlanta as it burns to the ground. And they're waiting for the Confederate soldiers at one point to cross the pass so they can go. And Scarlett is just saying, like, I wish that they'd hurry up. And Red says, I wouldn't be in such a hurry to see them go if I were you. With them goes the last semblance of any law and order. And they get the horse and the buggy through all of this, and they get to the crossroads to Tara, and Red has decided now that he's going to leave and join the army. And he says, I've always had a weakness for a lost cause once it's really lost. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'll never understand or forgive myself, and if a bullet gets me, so help me, I'll laugh at myself for being an idiot. There's one thing I do know, and that's that I love you, Scarlett. In spite of you and me and the whole silly world going to pieces around us, I love you because we're alike, bad lots, both of us, selfish and shrewd, but able to look things in the eyes as we call them by their right names. He then kisses Scarlett. Scarlett slaps him again. She gets another one of these good ones, and he leaves. And she and Melanie, who is passed out because she just had a baby and Melanie is not well, a screaming baby, Prissy, and a dying horse make their way to Tara. And they are making their way through there as the Yankees are advancing towards Atlanta. So they're going directly in the path of the Yankees. So at one point they have to hide under a bridge and sort of muffle the sound of the baby screaming so that the Yankees don't find them. Eventually, they make their way back to the county. They see that 12 Oaks, which is Ashley's family's plantation, has been burnt to the ground. Tara, they find out when they get there, has been occupied by the Yankees, but they've gone now. Ellen has died, and Gerald has kind of gone insane from the grief. And Scarlett is just devastated because all she wanted to do was get home to her mother. And she's so hungry and she's starving. She runs out to the plantation to try to find any food. And she eats these carrots and vomits, and she gets up and she holds her hands up like this. You've probably seen some clip of this your whole life. And she says, it's God is my witness. It's God is my witness. They're not going to lick me. I'm going to live through this. And when it's all over, I'll never be hungry again. No, nor any of my folk. And if I have to lie, steal, cheat, or kill, as God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again. And that's the first part. And it's a fucking banger, you guys. It's a great one. All problems of the film aside. But essentially, like, the important thing to learn about Scarlett, because she's our protagonist here, and like a badass woman character, because, at the time we're reading, there's a lot of books and the women are like disgustingly likable. And Scarlett, almost irredeemably awful, but she's still our protagonist, which is nice to have like a complex female written character when there's still a world full of Melanies. Um, and like to learn, like, Melanie sees the good in everybody, even Scarlett, who doesn't necessarily deserve this because she's trying to steal her husband, but it's a really good. And we were watching the evolution of Scarlett from this like more wide-eyed teenager into like what essentially like trauma does to a person, and like hardens somebody who was already quite like a tough exterior to begin with. So that's part 1 of Gone with the Wind. Next week will be part 2, where we'll wrap it all up. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks again for listening.